Look at the metric of amount of waste and begin with the premise that a completely sustainable and intelligent design of any kind has zero waste. Now, to examine that, we first have to know what waste is. And the first thing to notice about waste is it's human, meaning animals, a bear, a dog, a cow, doesn't say that's wasteful. It doesn't distinguish between what is useful and what is wasteful, what I want and what I don't want. Waste emerges as a human thought that we invented when something that we wanted to do or wanted to make created something that we don't want and don't know what to do with. So, for example, I call this useful and I call this waste. What does it mean? I know what to do with this. I blow my nose with this, and then once I've blown my nose on it, I no longer know what to do with it. I don't have a plan. And so it's now garbage. The plan is get rid of it. It's now garbage. So I now move it to this little bucket. And then that bucket, I don't know what to do with that when it's full either. I don't have a useful thing for buckets full of that. So then I move it to a bigger bucket. Now I don't know what to do with the bigger bucket either. And so a big truck comes by and picks it up from the bigger bucket. But they don't know what to do with it either. So they cart it off to the transfer station, and they don't know what to do with it either. And so they load it all up and transfer it hundreds of miles to where, with great resistance, meaning nobody likes a big pit in their backyard, so there's always resistance. We don't want because they don't want it either. With great resistance, a huge hole has been dug off, clearing the land of vegetation. A huge hole is dug. Or it goes into a giant fire, and we put all the smoke in the air, and so we end up breathing heavy metals and all that. And it goes in, and that's what we do. So now we have waste that we're breathing, meaning it's not good for our lungs to breathe the stuff from an incinerator. And it's not good for the groundwater or the earth to engage with what we've dumped in that pit. And the average American creates 102 metric tons of stuff that is defined by the average American as garbage. Stuff that I don't know what to do with. I just want it out of here. Now, if the average person weighs 160 pounds and creates over the course of a lifetime 102 metric tons of garbage, we're looking at a thousands upon thousands ratio of body mass to this concept that we invented called garbage. Now, this is how nature does it. Nature doesn't create waste. So nature creates a banana tree, and then that we want the banana, so we eat the banana, no waste there. We eat the banana, and we shit food for the banana tree. It's a complete circle. Food in for us, food out for the tree that fed us. That, there is no waste. There is a zero waste in that protocol. We breathe in oxygen from the trees, and we feed the trees the stuff they need in the air. So we give the trees what they need to live, and they give us what we need to live. No waste. Nobody says, get that garbage out of here. So nature designs sustainably, which produces zero waste. There's things to do with for rocks. There's this type of weather produces this type of landscape. This type of weather produces this type of landscape. This continent produces these kinds of animals, and they have a balance that they find. This continent produces these other balances. So in this whole cycle of interconnected, perfect design, when I say perfect design, I'm specifically referencing the waste metric. There is no waste. So nature has a zero waste design. Nature gives birth to human beings, and we, for some strange reason in Western consciousness, think that we have nothing to do with nature. It's the enemy or whatever. And so there's this very interesting thing that's happening within nature, meaning we are natural. Nature gives rise to human beings. And then we start making all these things, lawn chairs, plastics, boats, planes. And then we do what we imagined we wanted to do with this plane or whatever. And then it's like, I don't want it anymore. Get rid of it. And we've gotten more and more efficient over time at how to produce and create more and more things that we use for a time, and then they wear out or they break or we get bored with them, and then we want to get rid of them. And we're doing this at a ratio of so many thousand times per body weight. And then we're creating lots and lots of people that pretty soon, if the cycle continues, there will be no place to put all of that garbage. But the real problem is not that we have no place to put the garbage. The real problem is a design paradigm. You see, because there is no garbage. What's happening is we're taking, for example, oil from the ground. We're turning it into a plastic lawn chair that is going to deteriorate in the sun to a point that one day when we lean on it, it's going to crack, or we're going to say, oh, that looks old. I don't want to look like I have old-fashioned things in this culture of ours that likes everything new, so we've got to get rid of it. Then everyone else says, well, I don't want that old stuff because I want to look new too, and so I don't want it. Go throw it in a hole. Nobody wants it. We'll throw it in a hole. Well, all of this means is that all of the energy stored in that plastic, so we made the plastic, we turned energy, we used energy, often gas, to turn oil into plastic. So we used gas to turn gas into a chair. And then we used gas to make a machine that hauls the thing off to a big hole in the ground. And the energy is locked in that form that we cast it in. Plastic is made into molds. We cast it in that form, and there is tons of energy. Every single one of the atoms, has the potential to participate in nuclear fusion or fission and create enormous amounts of electricity. All plastic can be used for any number of things, but what we basically have become complacent with is, I'm sure it could be used for something. No doubt. Nature uses just about everything for everything else in an endless, continual, sustainable relationship. So, sure, we could chop up that plastic chair, melt it down again and turn it into art. We could shred this and mix it with this and make a waterproof fabric. Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of things we could do, but we don't want to deal with it. It's more it's more efficient and simpler to just make more new stuff than to figure out what to do with this old stuff. I don't want to deal with it, so we'll just call it garbage. So this is just lazy design thinking, and it's short-sighted when we're creating 100 tons per person over the course of a lifetime, because, of course, someone is going to have to deal with that. And we're fine with that because it's not going to be us. So that's someone else's problem, which is, again, more short-sighted thinking. And Einstein classically said you cannot solve a problem with the level of thinking that created the problem. And so when we decide that it's okay to just dig a big hole or make a big fire and send up in smoke toxic chemicals that everyone on the planet is going to breathe, because air doesn't just stay in one little area, it's an entire legacy of short-sighted thinking. Now, on the far side of incompetence, we would just destroy the entire planet in 1 or 2 generations, and it's not our problem because it'll be the next generation that dies. But on the other side of the competent extreme around this issue, we challenge ourselves as part of nature to do better than nature, which nature's starting point is there is no waste, that every single thing that exists on the planet is in an interdependent, mutually beneficial relationship with something else. And at this level of thinking, we challenge ourselves to redesign and to design a new culture that has zero waste, where we are not satisfied with it being reproduced until we see the entire cycle of energy, of form, of matter moving from this to this to this, and coming out the other side, being useful, so that there never is any garbage. This turns into this, then this turns into this, then this turns into this, and we use this to turn it into this, and when that's done, we use this to turn it into this, and then that makes more of this, and so that there's an ongoing sense of abundance, that we don't run out. We keep using one thing to make more useful things out of another thing, and then more useful things out of that, so that it's the opposite of destroying complexity and diversity, etc. We're actually creating new and new and new sustainable things. And one of the things that this leads to is the investment in human consciousness. Because there's only one reason that for hundreds of years we have been creating garbage. And it's because we're not investing in human consciousness. Oh, we learn a little bit of mathematics and this and that and the other, but we're not investing in ecological consciousness. We're not investing in sustainable design at a rate to keep up with all the things that we're inventing. And so a key metric is to start with the country and the culture that you're in, and then redesign your own life within that culture to be half as much waste. Less electricity, less this, And electricity is not actually a very good example, because electricity isn't waste. But unfortunately, the way that we're creating electricity is waste. And when we pump coal out in the ground or create nuclear waste, we're simultaneously cutting down forests that would take the coal fumes out of the atmosphere. And we haven't bothered to do anything useful with nuclear waste. There's something to be done with it. We just haven't bothered to figure it out. And so when we start understanding, first of all, the paradigm that there is no waste, it's just a lazy man's or lazy person's kind of placeholder for piles upon piles of opportunity, resources, and energy that we can't be bothered to figure out what the fuck to do with. That's all our pits of waste are. We haven't gotten around to thinking about this. And it's a huge resource. When we just understand that thinking, one of the most intelligent things that we can start studying as students and facilitating in our schools is the nuanced examination of waste-free culture by figuring out how to recycle and reuse what's in our garbage pits, in our garbage cans, number one. And number two, how to design things from the first go that have a future use. So that this is designed so that it's going to do this for about 6 years, and then it's going to do this, and then it's going to do this, and then it's going to be remade to do this, and we'll be back where we were with more resources than we ever had before.